Yes. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for this special webinar, which is entitled Discover Nature with iNaturalist, a guide for the Great Southern Bioblitz, Murrindindi Shire. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we are on in Murrindindi Shire, and that's the Taungurung and Wurundjeri people. We pay our respects to First Nations leaders and elders, past, present and emerging, who are the keepers of history, traditions, knowledge and culture of this land. We're thrilled to have you here as part of a growing community of people passionate about nature, science and making a real difference for biodiversity right here in Murrindindi Shire. Today's session is all about iNaturalist, an accessible citizen science app that's changing the way we observe, document and connect with the natural world. Whether you're a seasoned ecologist, a casual hiker, a student, or simply curious about the plants and animals around you, this webinar will equip you with the tools and knowledge to get involved. Our guide for this journey is Michael Cincotta, and I hope I've pronounced that correctly, Michael.
That's correct, yes.
Thank you. An ecologist and passionate field naturalist with over 30 years of experience in biodiversity conservation. Michael has worn many hats throughout his career, from nursery coordinator and biodiversity manager to senior ecological consultant. He's also a highly regarded educator, having delivered countless workshops on everything from plant ID to habitat restoration to citizen science tools like iNaturalist. For the past 4 years, Michael has been a driving force behind the Great Southern Bioblitz, Nangak Tamboree project and the City Nature Challenge, empowering communities to contribute meaningful data to global biodiversity research. So please welcome today's presenter, Michael Cincotta. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Sue. That was an amazing introduction. That guy sounds awesome when it comes out of your mouth. It's a very different world being at this end of it. Yeah, thank you for that. I'm just here to take you guys through some information about the Great Southern Bioblitz and iNaturalist, and how to utilise the app and how to make good, effective observations, and hopefully to sort of help encourage other people to come into the Bioblitz, maybe from not having used iNaturalist before, and be able to make an observation effectively so that it can reach what we call research grade, and then be utilised potentially by consultants or land managers as well. So we'll go through some of the detail. So yeah, the Great Southern Bioblitz it's essentially an annual collaborative survey in the Great Southern, or in the Southern Hemisphere, and it's held in spring each year, in the southern spring, and basically it moves around. So some years it's in September, it's an early spring, some years it's October, some years it's November. And that's to try and capture as much biodiversity activity throughout those various different times in spring as possible in essentially a long linear study. So essentially people, citizen scientists and professionals, gather their phones and their cameras and get out and record as much biodiversity related information on an app called iNaturalist in 4 days as they possibly can. I've been coordinating the Bioblitz for Nangak Tamboree for 5 years, and that was with 2 small Shire councils, City of Darebin and City of Banyule. And we managed to last year place 3rd in the world in the Great Southern Bioblitz out of 240 odd projects. So that was pretty amazing. It took a few years to get people involved and excited about the project, but as we gathered pace, it really worked. And I'm excited to be part of Murrindindi's and to start driving Murrindindis, because this is the first year that Murrindindi's been in it officially as a project for the Great Southern Bioblitz. And Murrindindi's got so much to offer. It's got amazingly diverse landscapes. There are 3 different bioregions and hundreds of different niches and lots of different EVCs. And an EVC is an ecological vegetation class, which means the biota in that particular class is different from its neighbouring EVC. And Murrindindi's lucky in that it has, several elevations and beautiful parks and reserves and some good roadside vegetation and all the wildlife that goes with it. So I thought it would be fair for Murrindindi to be involved. I also have a bit of a vested interest because I do have a property at Eildon within the Shire. So happy to engage as many local people as possible, essentially. It's a great way for people to kind of connect with nature and with fellow naturalists and contribute to scientific research and knowledge as well. So the citizen science component of iNaturalist is really beneficial, not just for the individual that's doing the citizen science, but also for government bodies that might be managing reserves or land. And, things like Parks Victoria's research programs actually utilise the citizen science that iNaturalist gathers to kind of bolster their own work that they do in terms of consultant type reports and their own in-house reports. And so it just enables a much broader knowledge base to be gathered for a lot less cost, I guess. And it really boosts the effectiveness of the information gathering. So the app that we use to gather data for the Great Southern Bioblitz is iNaturalist. iNaturalist is easily accessible on the App Store or the Apple Store, or Play Store, so you can just download that free. There are a couple of versions. So Apple have 2 versions, the classic version and the updated new version of iNaturalist. You can use either. I use both for various different things. The Android version is still the classic version though, so it's all pretty straightforward in terms of the AI and the photographic component and transferring photos from your phone to the app. It's quite easy, and there are also within iNaturalist lots of sort of educational videos and hints and tips to sort of help you along the way as well. So once you kind of register for iNaturalist and download the app, you can then access a whole world of information, essentially. It's not only beneficial in terms of being able to upload observations for other people to access, but it's really useful for yourself as a naturalist, or even just maybe a keen birder or something, just searching your local area for what might occur there, or even areas you're visiting. And if you're kind of obsessed like me, you sit up late at night just looking at amazing places in Africa and dreaming of biodiversity like that on your doorstep. So it's a really cool app. It can be a great tool, and it's a really good funnel for information to upload for very useful conservation-minded projects. There's a thing called research grade data within the app. So what happens is you, as a citizen scientist, take a photograph of a life form, whatever it is. Let's say it's a plant, and you upload it to the web, and then anybody can sort of search that area and find that observation and see that you've taken a photo and named it potentially, or hopefully, or given it some sort of AI identification. And then they can verify your identification. So you yourself can do this, and others can do this as well. They'll look at your ID, make a call on what species they think it is, and then enter that. Once 2 or 3 verified people that have made lots of research grade identifications have identified your species, it goes up to research grade. Research grade is really important because that then transfers all the data in Australia anyway, transfers up to the ALA, which is the Atlas of Living Australia. And that database can be accessed by consultants or land managers in the same way that the Victorian Biodiversity Atlas, the VBA, can be accessed and various other platforms to help inform developments, to help inform management and conservation focused programs as well. So it's a really, really important thing, this iNaturalist, as well as being a really fun activity and engaging. Once you've downloaded the app and you've registered your information, you do need to register an email address to it. Register your information and created your profile, you can start going out and making observations. So essentially, these observations involve basically recording an organism, either by photographic evidence or through sound. You can do either through your phone, through the app. The organism, in the case of the Great Southern Bioblitz, the organism must be wild or naturalised to count in the Great Southern Bioblitz. But you can also do what's called casual grade observations, which means you can take photographs of, say, plants in your garden, captive animals, those sort of things, if you want to try and get an ID, or just to share some knowledge about the distribution of these things within, maybe an anthropomorphic landscape, but it doesn't actually count as conservation-minded biodiversity knowledge. Okay. Now, in the Great Southern Bioblitz, there's a couple of caveats, and they are that you can't upload photographs of domestic cats or dogs, and you can't upload photographs of humans, and that's just one of their rules. You can, however, interestingly, if you have a photograph of multiple organisms within the same photograph, and if you look at the right of the screen there, you'll see there's a photograph of a little lily that's milkmaid's, Burkhardia umbellata, the white flower in the center. However, behind that white flower, there are a number of plants that can be also identified, and that photograph can then be used again as an identification for the common everlasting daisy behind it, the yellow flowered thing, and potentially that little shimmery grass or that era, little sort of fluffy grass behind there as well. So sometimes you get pollinators landing on flowers, and you might want to identify the pollinator and the flower. And sometimes you'll get a flower with a spider that's got an insect in its mouth. And you can get all three. So you can upload it 3 times, or you'll get a little cluster of mosses and you've got 3 or 4 species, and you can just upload it 3 or 4 times. And in the notes section, you can just make a note of the fact that this, that photo that you've uploaded is for the moss that looks like X, Y, Z, and the next photo might be ABC. So you can use the same photo multiple times. The good thing about using phones is they typically geolocate the photos anyway. So if you take a series of photos in the field, you don't have to upload them all at the same time, especially if you don't have coverage. You can just take them back home, and then when you've got internet coverage or Wi-Fi or whatever, you can then upload them all later on, and it will remember what the locality was and the time was that you took that photo. So yeah, that functionality is actually really good. In terms of the species ID, the AI in iNaturalist is amazing. So it does get things wrong from time to time, and there are notoriously difficult things like eucalypts and grasses. But for the most part, it'll get the identification to a point where others can get onto iNaturalist and identify it better. And if that does happen, and you get somebody come on and there'll be multiple identifications in a different direction than perhaps you were going, you can then modify your initial observation to match theirs if you think that they're legitimate, or that they are potentially more qualified in the field than you are, because there's a whole lot of observations that don't make it to research grade because the initial observer forgets to go back into their app and then change the identification to the appropriate one. Every organism, dead or alive, counts as biodiversity. So all those sort of typical things like animals and plants and fungi, insects, invertebrates, fish, birds, those sort of things, the really obvious things, obviously, but other things that people kind of forget about, weeds are definitely as important as native plants because it helps managers map potentially weed infestations and movements through the landscape over time. Um, Pests, parasites, algae, viruses, sort of traces of wildlife, fauna as well. So things like if you can identify it to a species or even to a group of species, then it could be useful data. So sometimes nests are quite characteristic. Certain burrows and scat analysis can be done through photographic evidence, tracks and footprints sometimes as well, and even things like scars on feed trees where gliders and things will feed are in a particular format, and you can almost identify rub marks from deer, that sort of stuff, even roadkill. So, like I said, dead animals as good as a live animal. What it does is it informs scientists or managers of the presence of an organism, not necessarily having to know that that organism is alive and well, but that it exists in the landscape as an entity. In terms of uploading, I kind of mentioned before, you can either upload in the field each time you take a photograph, or you can do it all back at the ranch, back at home later on, which is what I tend to do because I often take way too many photos to deal with it in the field. I'll just give you an example. Now, this is, I'm going to upload an observation which I made today. And this is the new version on the iPhone that I'm showing you because that's the one I have currently. This is the screen which comes up when you turn on your app, your iNaturalist. You can see there's a whole list of observations that I've made, the last, 5 or 6 observations in a row, what they are. The ones that have the little, this little green kind of ribbon next to them with a tick on it, ones that have reached research grade. So I've suggested an observation of a particular species, and some other people have come in and said, yep, we think it's that. And you can see this one, the first one, the Australian grapevine moth, or second one down actually, the first green one. It has the number 2 at the top there. Means 2 people have said, yes, we believe that's a grapevine moth, and it's reached research grade. The next one down, it's a beetle. Sometimes invertebrates take a long time before they get verified to species level or whatever. And often they get removed back because AI identifies them as something, and usually it's microscopic features on the insect or the invertebrate itself that will identify it as a particular species. And if you can't capture that in a photograph, it can't actually be proven, so it can't be pushed to research grade. So it usually just goes to the genus level, which is sometimes okay, but other times it just makes it a little less specific, that's all. Now, so this is my screen. This is what comes up. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see a big plus sign. Basically, I just hit that plus sign, and the next screen that comes up will be something to this effect. You'll see there's a number of icons there. There's a camera, which means, take the photo now. There's a gallery, which you can choose photos from your gallery. And in the classic mode, you can only choose 1 photo at a time. In the new mode, you can choose up to 20 photos at a time to be uploaded. So that's one of the really good functions of the newer one. If you've got an iPhone, you can access that. And below that, you'll see there's a microphone there. So that means you can record sound as well. And sometimes you can take photos and record sound at the same time. So you might hear a bird calling. It's actually a really good idea to snap a shot of the habitat it's calling from, so that people that are identifying it can actually see where it might have been coming from. It's really useful. It's almost as useful as taking a photo of the bird itself. The issue with the sounds is that the AI within the iNaturalist app is not at the level of identifying from sounds yet. So they need to be verified by a second person and third person to go to research grade. So on my one, I've clicked on the gallery shot, and you can see here, there's a whole heap of photos seemingly of the same thing. Well, that is of the same thing. And the reason I take so many photos of the same thing is that when you're in the field and the sun's shining on your screen, you don't know if it's blurry, you don't know if you've actually captured the right photo of the animal. I often start taking photographs of the animal from a distance, and then I walk closer. So at least if it flees, I've got some sort of evidence, photo evidence of the animal, even if it may not be the highest quality. The good thing about iNaturalist is you don't have to be an amazing photographer to put up valuable information. It can be very blurry. It can be, in the distance. It doesn't have to be in weird poses. The back end of a bird, it doesn't have to even have the face on it. So long as you can identify that organism, it's perfectly adequate. So this is a striped legless lizard, which I was very happy to see today. It's the first time I've ever seen one in the wild, just moving through the landscape. Didn't even have to look under a tile for this one. And I just went happy snappy and took a whole heap of photos. What I've done is I've selected the one that I liked the best, which was that nice close-up one there. It's got a tick on it to push up to my library. So I've hit that, and then at the top of the screen there's a little add button. I've just hit the add button. Then that goes through to this section here, which is the AI starting to try and guess what this thing is. Now, interestingly, the first thing that comes up is not striped legless lizard, even though it's a fairly identifiable species. Because it's such a rare animal in the landscape where I found it, and it has not been recorded there before, it doesn't recognize the fact that it's the most obvious solution. So what it said is, it knows, with 89% accuracy that this is a lizard. It can tell that because of some of the structures on the animal. Even though it looks superficially to us like a snake, it knows it's a lizard. And then it goes through, it says, what are the most common things in that site that have been recorded before? And we've got tussock skink, it's about 7%, and then it goes down in percentage, so on and so forth. And as you see, Delma impar, which is a striped legless lizard, does not even appear there. So I've said, hey, I know what this is. I'm going to enter it in myself. So at the top of the screen there, you can see a little magnifying glass. I clicked on the magnifying glass and it brings me to this screen here, which gives me a search. And in that search, I just wrote in striped legless lizard, or Delma impar is actually what I wrote, not striped, because on here, sometimes the common names on iNaturalist can be a little bit different to what you're used to, and sometimes a bit harder to find, but that's okay. So I wrote in the scientific name, it brought up the picture of this animal, I knew that was it, and I hit the tick button. Tick button takes me to this screen here. It's now logged that observation there, and on this one, and just for the purpose of this presentation, we can see that it's in the suburb of Ravenhall. And down the bottom here, you'll see there's a number of other tabs that we can open up and we can look in. The one that is really important for some things, especially threatened species, things like orchids where you don't want to give up an absolute location, or if you're recording things from your house and you don't want people to know where you live, you just tick the down arrow there and then you get these options. So you've got open, obscured, or private. If you tick private, nobody will be able to see that it's even in the Shire of Murrindindi. If you tick obscured, it gives a 10-kilometre radius from where you have observed it. So it just randomly puts that point somewhere and it marks it differently to observations which are known from a particular location. I've hit obscured because I don't want anybody to know where this was. And then it appears in my list. There it is there as the observation. Number one means I'm the only one that's identified it so far. Probably by now, that was about, I don't know, hour and a half ago. An hour and a half ago, probably by now someone's identified that, I would say. And sort of appears like that. So you can see a nice picture of it. You can favorite it with that star. There's many different things you can do in the app. If you go onto the desktop version, it sort of looks like this. This is a desktop view of my profile, and you can see a whole heap of tabs at the top. There's some interesting stuff that you can do in terms of looking at journals. You can go into different projects and search projects. You can follow people like you can on other social media, and they can follow you as well. And you can leave a little blurb about yourself, and you've got all your stats there as well. It's like how many observations you've made, how many species, how many times you've ID'd something, etc., etc. So it all comes up. In terms of finding wildlife, it's it's pretty important to know kind of, you can walk randomly through a landscape and encounter things, and that's fine. But if you really want to hook into it, having an idea about what sort of occurs where is beneficial before you head out. I like to go to places where wildlife typically gather. So we're talking, waterways, gullies, hilltops, interesting rock formations, those sort of things. You'll pick up various different wildlife at various different locations. Always think about lots of different niches, lots of different habitat types, and you'll get good variety of wildlife. And that goes for plants as well. So plants are just as diverse as the landscape. So the landscape changes, the plants change, the fauna that depends on those plants also changes. Try and choose some nice, the nice warmer sunny days are always awesome for bird movement and reptile movement. The humid weather for frogs. When it's raining, go to rainforest. It rains in rainforests. Everything looks as it should. Really try to avoid disturbing them too much, any of their habits. Try and take photos from as far away as you can to get the detail you need. Try to stick to the trails as much as you can, but obviously we're taking photos and really getting into nature, so we're going to go off track a little bit. Just be mindful of what you're stepping on and where you're walking. Record keeping is also as important. As it says here, iNaturalist will keep track of most things, but sometimes things like animal behavior is important to add in the notes section as well. I've sort of gone through some of that. Optimal lighting. Try to avoid flashes, especially with invertebrates if you can, because it tends to brighten the surface and washes out all the surface, and then you don't get to see the detail in the depth. If you've got good cameras with good macros, that's fine. But typically phones with flashes are not great. Try and use natural lighting if you can. In saying that, moths, stick a light on outside at night time during the Bioblitz and just take photos of any insects that come in, including moths. Multiple perspectives is a good idea too. So taking photos from different angles to get different views of different structures, particularly on invertebrates, so that we can identify what those things are. Same with plants, different perspectives are really important. Just quickly go through a couple of important things with plants. You can take up to 20 photographs, and plants are one of those things that you may need to take lots of photos for, because the various structures on a plant all come together in an equation to come to an ID at species level, especially things like eucalypts. So eucalypts require a minimum of 3 different things. So anything from leaves, buds, bark. If you can get one type of the leaf, either juvenile or adult, the bark and either buds or fruit, you might get pretty close to it, observation. If you can get juvenile leaves, adult leaves, fruit, buds, bark, and a photograph of the whole tree, you're pretty much going to get an ID to species level. For eucalypts, if you just take photos of flowers on a flowering eucalypt, you're not going to get anything, because they all look very, very much the same and they're not identifiable to species. Close-ups are really important when we're looking at plant structures. So, the hairs on the stems, the petal arrangement. You can see here, I've got my hand behind this lovely little donkey orchid. If you bring your hand in, it brings the focus up. A dark background often makes the plant pop in the foreground too. It doesn't have to look like a beautiful plant in a natural landscape. These are about ID of species, this is not a photo competition. So things like grass seed heads, those sort of things, really good if you can get your hand behind it. Gives perspective to size and helps with the focus as well. With grasses, if you can get a photograph of the actual seed, so if you can pull a few seeds out of the seed head, put them in the palm of your hand and get a nice photo of that as well, that'll really help towards a species ID. And just finally, I just want to go through quickly, there are a number of different things that we've got on this weekend that Chris Coburn and others have really helped us out with, Tony Fitzgerald and the guys at Yay as well, Eildon Pondage. We've got a whole range of stuff going on. If you join the project, the finer details for all of these things are in the journal on the project. So yeah, we're starting out on Friday morning at 9 o'clock at Canberra with a bird survey with Chris Coburn up at Goulburn Landcare. He's going to lead that. That'll be lovely on the rail trail, I believe. Then Friday night, Tony's going to lead a spotlight walk down at Molesworth. There's a conservation reserve there behind the town there. And yeah, so details again on the journal. At Yea on the same evening, there's a platypus and ricali survey, so that'll be really cool. If you haven't seen ricali before, they're our little native otters. They're beautiful little rodents. There's a special birds on farms survey. And that's sort of conducted under Birds Australia. It's on a private property. You need to get on to Corinne. She's limiting that to 10 people. So if the numbers aren't already at 10, then get in and get on that one, because that'll be awesome. And then we've just got a couple of other ones. We've got a bird survey at Yea Wetlands organised on Saturday at 9 o'clock. At 2 o'clock on the Saturday, I'll be leading a walk at Mackenzie Floral Reserve, just a wildflower sort of ramble. We're going to walk through, look at all sorts of things, not just wildflower, but birds and other fauna, all sorts of nature there. So come along to that. On the Saturday night, Chris is leading a spotlight walk at Wombalano Falls, and hopefully some greater gliders are going to show up, maybe the odd bandicoot and some other fauna, bowbucks, those sort of things. So that'll be a great one to get to. And then on the Sunday, we've got a bird walk at Eildon Pondage. We're going to have a bit of a walk around the area where the local Landcare up there have been doing a fair bit of work, and seeing what sort of wildlife's being attracted there. And then on the Monday, we've got Jeremy Hegg, who is a fungi specialist who leads tours, usually for $80 a head, in and around Melbourne and various other places around Victoria. Is going to lead a walk at Wirrawilla at Tulangi. So get along to that. You can RSVP to the various emails which are associated with those walks and activities, and all that stuff's on the journal. And I think that's pretty much it for me, and I am happy to take some questions.
Thanks, Michael. I'll just jump in here because I realised that I neglected to introduce who I actually was, or am, I should say. My name's Sue McNair and I'm an Environment Officer with Murrindindi Shire Council. So I neglected to mention that at the start. So welcome everybody, and thanks Michael for that detailed explanation on how to use iNaturalist. I actually did have a few questions that I thought others might come up with as well. So I'll go to those in a minute. But I also want to add two other things regarding activities that are happening through the Bioblitz and through October and into November. And currently this week, the Aussie Backyard Bird Count is on, and that goes from Monday through to Sunday, about 5 o'clock. The Aussie Backyard Bird Count also has an app that you can download, and that helps you identify what the bird is that you may spot. So how it works is you take 20 minutes out of your day. It could be at any time of the day, and you just sit quietly wherever you are, and it could be your backyard, it could be down the river, it could be in a nature reserve. You don't have to literally be in your backyard. Your backyard is the environment. So you just record for 20 minutes. And I do encourage people that may be a little bit reticent to think, oh, I don't know what the bird is, I'm not quite sure how to identify it. The app actually helps you by elimination. So the more you do, the more you're going to learn. So if you don't know what it is, you can perhaps eliminate the size of the bird, the colour of the bird, and the shape of the bird. And that helps narrow down what it could possibly be. So have a crack at that. That goes, you can do 20 minutes for the whole week, or you can do 20 minutes 3 times a day, every day, as many times as you like. So that's actually happening right now. And then there's also the frog ID that's happening Murrindindi Shire is going to be doing a webinar on the 5th of November from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. And it'll be live streamed, but you can also attend in person to the big screen, either at the Alexandra Council Chambers or the Kinglake Library or the Yea Wetlands Discovery Centre. Following that seminar that will be conducted by the Australian Museum, there will be a short walk from each of those locations down to a waterway where frogs will be calling away, and you can help identify them with the Frog ID app. That's done on the actual audio call of the frog. And it's a similar app where it finds that call for you to identify. So there's two more activities that are occurring through the Bioblitz. But I just have a couple of questions that may others listening may have as well. What is the journal, Michael? You referred to the journal. What is the journal?
So I'll just see if I can. Just bear with me. I'll just see if I can pull it up on and then share it. Bear with me. It's basically a journal where administrators and other people that the administrators give access to can list all sorts of things that are going on during the project that you're hooked up to. So just bear with me. I'll get it up and then I'll share it. All right, let me just share that screen. Can you see that screen now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So this is what you see when you log into the project, the Murrindindi Shire project. Essentially, there's a little blurb at the top here. Down the bottom here, I'll just scroll down. Down the bottom here is a map. We can scroll in and we can see all the areas that are covered by this project. And if you have joined the project, you'll see there's a whole, just here, there's a whole list of things that occur only in this project. So it says all taxa except for domestic dog, domestic cat, human. It shows the two locations, Murrindindi East and West, and some other information. At the top here, we've got a thing called a project journal. So if you click on the project journal, if you remember, all of these activities come up with all of their details and the links to where to meet and what time and all that sort of stuff, and the RSVPs, and then any other information that Chris or myself want to add into this, or any other administrators I give access to want to add into this, they can add to this journal. So if somebody finds something amazing, I'll put it in here. Everyone can see what's happening. There's also functionality in it when you log into this, into the project. This screen here will give you, when the project starts, there'll be a running tally. So you'll be able to see how many species have been recorded, who's got the biggest tallies, who's recorded what. You can break that down into plants or animals or birds or even honey eaters or whatever you want to look at. You'll be able to see what's happening within the whole Shire Murrindindi project. You'll also be able to see, there'll be also a thing in there that'll show where we sit on the ladder to the rest of the world. So we can see how we're tracking. The interesting thing about, or the good thing about these projects, the Great Southern Bioblitz, is that you have 2 weeks to upload your photographs. You can spend 4 days just taking photographs and doing the records, and then you've got 2 weeks to actually upload all that information to make it count within the Bioblitz. And it's at the end of that 2 weeks where we see actually where we would sit on that ladder. And I'm really curious to see, because I know Murrindindi is a very biodiverse Shire, and there is capacity to win this if you can get the numbers of people out there putting up the observations. So yeah, tell your
Michael.
friends, tell everybody.
Just to add to that, to actually obtain the journal, you need to actually go on to the iNaturalist. It's actually part of the iNaturalist. So once you've downloaded it and you've gone on to iNaturalist, you'll be directed to the Southern Bioblitz. Is that right?
Yeah, so, well, I'll show
Yeah.
you what it looks like. If you just go into iNaturalist, it'll look like this is you, right? This is your iNaturalist page. It'll show you all your observations. And then there's these tabs at the top here. There's one here that says projects. So if you hook into projects, this is the whole projects I'm involved in. You won't have any of those things. It'll be totally empty. But what you can do is there'll be a tab here to search for projects. Where are we? Or maybe I'm in the wrong spot. Hang on. If I go into here. Oh, now I've lost myself. Profile. Projects. There's a search function somewhere. I'll have to send it in an email or something. I can't find
But
a project.
basically, that's where you find your journal.
You've got to find, yeah, it's in the project. So once you've
Yes.
joined the project, no, it's not going to be up there.
So the first step is download the app, go into the app, and under projects, you should find the Great Southern Bioblitz
You'll find
Murrindindi
it.
Shire.
Yeah. So search
And
for
then
Murrindindi Shire.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you'll be into the appropriate space, which will then show you all the activities that are going on through the Bioblitz as well. That's what I'm getting at, I guess, so that other people
Yes.
that are here tonight, instead of scribbling down all those different
There you go. You hit
activities.
all projects.
Yeah.
All projects, and then you can search here, Murrindindi. So there it is there. So then you click on it and it'll bring it up, and then up here, where it says members, it'll say join. Just hit join, and then you'll be part of that project. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael. That makes it a lot clearer on how to get to the actual point to start.
Yeah. Yep. We can also send you a QR code. There's a QR code floating around for it. So, or a link. If somebody gets really stuck, you can email me, and you can get onto that. So, yep.
And I have one more question before others jump in. How does someone see your uploaded photos? So you've been uploading all these photos.
Yep.
If I go on, for example, and I've taken a photo of a striped legless lizard and I've uploaded it, does that mean that your photos come up, or how does that work?
Oh, absolutely. So I would go into, there's a thing called Explore. You can see it up here. I hit Explore. If I want to see that, I can search for a species. So I can search for Delmar impar, which is striped legless lizard. View. It'll show me all the observation, or show me about it. We can do map. Hit map. We can see all the observations that have been made of striped legless lizard, where they are. We can also look at that in a different way. So if we go up here and we go Delmar impar, view observations, it'll give us a grid. So these are all the observations that have been made of this particular species. You can see my one there. That's the most recent one. And you can click on any one of these that you like. And if you click on it, it'll show you, this is what I was talking about. I should bring up this map a bit bigger. This is what I was talking about, the obscured observation. So it's somewhere in this square. It puts it just randomly somewhere. So it just puts a point over there. That's not where it was observed. It could have been down the bottom here or up here at a really fine scale. We don't really know where it is, but we know it's in that area. So it's important to make sure things are marked as obscured rather than private if you want them to count within the Murrindindi Bioblitz, because then the program knows it's within that shire and it counts it towards the Bioblitz. You can also see on here who took the photograph and who the identifying people are down the list. If you want to see who took the photo, you can click on that and their profile comes up. You can even contact them. You can send them a message. You can say, hey, hi, whatever. I noticed you've seen a blah, blah, blah here. My name's whatever. I'm from this. I mean, well, can you help me find one? I'm really looking for, looking for them or whatever. So you can contact people directly. He has the option of responding, of course. He doesn't have to respond, but it certainly gets through to the person that's taken the photograph, the observer. This is a pretty rare species. There's only 54 observations here on iNaturalist. For instance, if I was to look up Australian magpie, we look at those observations, you can see there's 49,252 observations of Australian magpie. Pretty common. So the rare ones often get attention from researchers or land managers who check iNaturalist and look at what people have uploaded from their localities. But the common ones often just get sort of glanced at, and that's about it, especially things like a magpie, because we know what the distribution is. If we click on, if we bring it up, if we clicked on the species name and we got up to that level as we did before, you can see there are all the 49,000 observations. They're right across the southern hemisphere. Interestingly, I didn't know they were in New Zealand. I've never been to New Zealand or Fiji. Didn't know they were there, but it looks like they've made their way there as well, and they're also in Papua New Guinea. So,
very
you can
interesting.
see other information around the world about observations from them. You can load up each one of those individually and look at that particular observation if you like. From New Zealand. Yep. So there you
Michael,
go.
I'll interrupt you because we're well over, and
so
there is a question.
Answer.
There is. Well, I've been hogging the questions, I suppose, but there is another one here from Tony.
Oh, yep.
Any observations I have from the Spotlight Walk, are they entered via my personal ID on iNaturalist or via the iNaturalist project?
From your personal ID or whoever takes the photograph. So, Tony, if you take the photos, they're yours. You have to upload them. If I take the photos, I'll upload them. If there's somebody there that's taking photos who doesn't want to be on iNaturalist and wants to upload them, then they can contact yourself or me and we can do that for them.
I hope that answered your question, Tony. Gotcha. Thanks, Michael, from Tony. So I don't see any other questions in the meeting chat. So last call, if anybody has any questions for Michael, please put them in the chat fairly quickly because we have kept you over time, and thank you for staying online to listen to Michael.
It's also worth noting that anybody that makes an observation in across that weekend, whether it's in Murrindindi or even another shire, those observations will count towards the Great Southern Bioblitz, even if you're not registered to the project for the site with which you take that observation. So even if somebody's randomly coming through Murrindindi, taking photos and uploading them to iNat that weekend, they will still count towards our tallies. So, yep.
So is the Bioblitz only for the weekend? Is it only for the weekend? Or
yeah, for the Bioblitz, it's just for those 4 days. So from midnight Thursday night, so Friday morning, to midnight Monday night. So yeah.
But of course, people can continue to use the
absolutely. I totally encourage you to.
App. Yes,
yeah.
It's only in relation to I guess that particular time for this project, but it's there forever. And you can continue to add those observations as you make them.
That's right. And you'll see me online. You'll see me, in the app. I'll be IDing lots of different things. Feel free to throw me a question, look me up through the app. It's just my name, Michael Cincotta. So easy to find. Happy to answer any questions as well. So, yep.
I'll just throw one last question out there. Citizen science, so they may not be scientists. They may not know the botanical or the Latin name for a species if they only know the common name. And we know that plants, for example, can have a dozen common names and be the same species. I think you touched on it, that it doesn't deal with them as well, but many people will not know the scientific name. So just put in the common name and It'll work with the common name.
Yeah, we'll find all those observations. Even if you add nothing to it, I'll still find it. Others will still find it. But it just makes it easier for people who are potentially specialists in reptiles or plants. If you've at least labeled it as a reptile or a plant, they'll find it a lot easier than if it's just unknown. So, yep. It just helps with the filters. There's lots of different filters that we can search things from.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't see any more questions. Perhaps we should wind it up there. We're 20 minutes over. So again,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you everyone for staying online and listening to this really informative talk. And thank you, Michael, for being instigating the Bioblitz in the Shire. We're off to a start, and as the years progress, I'm sure we'll get more and more people involved. It's our inaugural year, so tell your friends and family to join in and be part of it. And good luck, everyone. Enjoy collecting those photographs and enjoying the beautiful spaces, natural spaces around us in Murrindindi Shire. And thank you so much, Michael, for a really informative talk.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, guys.
All right. We'll say good night.
All right.